Hajiman, and welcome to another episode of Beyond UX Design Live. Before we get started, I have to apologize. Han just let me know that I completely screwed up the time and set the time for 9 a.m. Eastern. I thought it was 10, so if you're hanging out, awesome. If you couldn't make it because the time screwed up, well, you can watch it on YouTube. So anyway, I apologize for that. Before we get into it, some housekeeping things. First, if you're new here, welcome. I'm excited to have you. The Beyond UX Design shop is open. Head on over to beyonduxdesign.com/shop. Get yourself some big, beautiful art prints of some of my favorite UX and software related quotes. Or you can get yourself some digital downloads and print them yourself. Pick up your copy of Beyond UX Design, master your craft beyond pictures and prototypes. Get free shipping on all orders over $30, and stick around until the end for a coupon to get 25% off. Head on over to beyonduxdesign.com/shop to get your print on. This week's episode is brought to you by Wix Studio. If you've been sitting on building your new website, Wix Studio can help get you there faster. Wix Studio is a powerful platform that lets you create and manage websites easily. In Wix Studio, you can create quickly adapt designs for every device. You can reuse assets and my favorites, export from Figma, and much more. Check out beyonduxdesign.com/Wix to get started today. This week's episode is also brought to you by Backlog, a community of designers building their businesses together. And if you've been ready to escape the 9 to 5 and build your own business, Backlog is the community for you. Join a dedicated network sharing tactics, strategies, and systems for success. Start your journey to independence with Backlog. Don't miss out. Visit beyonduxdesign.com/backlog to learn more. And as always, thanks so much to Chris, Sarah Kwan, Stacy, Ryder, Megan, Andrew, Jama, Kevin, Jason, Michelle, and Marty for all their support. I'd love to add your name to that list. If you want to join those fine folks and many others and help keep the show independent and ad-free, you'll get rough transcripts and exclusive access to the entire video library of episodes, including episodes before they're released. You get instant access right now for $5 a month. That's not too bad. For more information on how you can support the show, help more people find out what we're doing, make sure you check out beyonddesign.com/support. And of course, real simple, if you think the shows we're sharing, tell your mom. I would love that. All right. So we've got my buddy Joseph Mercieca on the show today. Let me go ahead and bring him on. I'll get you on here, Joseph. Turn you on. There it is. Joseph, welcome.
Hello.
Design. How's it going, man? How are you?
Not too bad, not too shabby. Good to see you, Jeremy. How things going over there?
So you asked
no
me
worries,
morning, you're like, how are we doing 9 a.m. Eastern? And I was like, nah, dude, it's 10. And then Hong sent me a message. He's like, what's up with the thing? And I was like, what? He's like, it says 9.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, my fault.
No worries. Just one thing, Jeremy. Is there something okay? Is the audio okay by any chance?
I
can hear some background noise at your end, so I just wonder. Okay.
Yeah, you sound good. You sound very handsome. You sound extremely handsome. All right, so Joseph, I'm going to read a little bio real quick for you, and then we're going to get started. Just jump right into it. With over a decade of experience, Joseph has guided multinational stakeholders in leveraging UX, CX, CRO, and KPIs to drive growth and optimize products and services, including enterprise SaaS and machine learning software, web, and apps. His expertise lies in leading research and design initiatives through strategic planning with multidisciplinary stakeholders, tackling complex challenges, and fostering design culture across diverse settings. His interests encompass design futures, cognitive behaviorism, ubiquitous computing, AI ethics, and the geopolitical influence on the digital ecosystem, which we're going to dig into a little bit. What you got?
Jeremy, there is a comment from Hang Shu. He said that I think you have the wrong mic toggled.
Oh shit. Let's see. Audio. Let me try this. This happened a couple weeks ago. And how's that? Does it sound better?
Great, awesome.
Is that better?
Yep, at my end it sounds great. I mean, so no more background noise. I mean, because there was this kind of.
Okay. Oh, weird. Okay. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. So this happened last week or a couple weeks ago. I've got the settings correct. I had to just go back and toggle it back on and off, and then it worked. I don't know. No idea. Anyway, restream, fix your stuff. All right. Yes. So I read your bio. I don't need to get back in there. Thank you for letting me know, by the way, Hong. I appreciate that. All right. So before we get into it, dude, real quick, I want everybody to leave a little note down in the comments. I'd love to know where you're hanging out from. So let us know where you are. That'll also test our comments feature to make sure it's showing up, because sometimes these things don't seem to work. I don't know. So anyway, we are doing that. Joseph, okay, cool. I was just looking at the comments. All right, awesome. Popping a huge pimple. Thanks, Hong. It's a great, vivid imagery there. I appreciate that. All right, so real quick, leave your questions in the comments for Mr. Joseph Mercieca. Joseph, real quick before we start, let everybody know some things you want them to ask about, some things you want to talk about. We'll get those in the chat. We also have some questions that people submitted ahead of time, and so we'll get that stuff in there as well. But we'll mix it in if people start asking questions. So let everybody know, what do you want to talk about today, dude?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, so basically, pretty much, I mean, I've been in situations where people used to ask me with regards to experiences looking for roles or opportunities elsewhere. Like I term it cross-border job hunting, put it frankly. So this is about looking for opportunities beyond beyond where you live. So
Mm-hmm.
that means looking for opportunities in other nations and so on. So that's part one. And in addition to that, uh, since I traveled a little bit around, I also ended up learning more and more about cultures and how design is perceived across different cultures. So I can also talk a little bit further with regards to what is termed as cross-cultural design.
Okay.
And last but not least, also with regards to I'm still trying to juggle the right term to that, but I prefer to use the term regionalization. So this has to do
Okay.
with how to design compliant solutions that can be acceptable in other nations, to put it frankly.
Okay.
So that's a bit in a nutshell. And what I can do is I can also give a little bit of an overview about how it all started, where I come from, and so on, just to give a little bit of context for the listeners. So basically,
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
for those who don't know, I mean, I come from an island called Malta, which is situated between Italy and Libya. So pretty much it's in the very heart of the Mediterranean. And in time, I traveled, lived and worked pretty much across Europe, including the UK, Ireland, Germany, Finland, and Norway. And at the same time, I had the opportunity of working with multinational entities, including companies from the United States, and also companies, okay, could be from Europe with offices in the US, but also in other regions like Asia Pacific, MENA, Latin America, and so on. And simultaneously, I also had the interesting opportunity of working with different nationalities, pretty much from across the globe. So there was also that. And nowadays, when I look back, I tend to ask myself like whether there is a new flag I can add in my collection of people I worked with. Because also beyond design, years ago, I also worked on a European project related to the integration of asylum seekers within the
Oh wow,
local context that was back in Malta. So I ended up dealing with a lot of people from pretty much from Africa, like like Cote d'Ivoire, Somalia, Eritrea, and so on. So that also gave me further exposure to
that's awesome, dude.
certain cultures. Yeah,
I love that.
and at the same
Do you have a sticker wall? You have a wall where you keep all the flags? You know, like in the States, you get people have campers. They have like a map of the U.S. and they all the states that they go to when they travel. Do you have like a wall where you keep all your flags from all the countries that you work
Actually,
with?
no, but I remember I once worked for a company based in Portland. I worked with the UK team, and they usually celebrate when a new flag is added. So when my new flag was added, because my flag is kind of rare to some, we had
Yeah, I
the
don't think I know what a Malta flag looks like. Maltese.
yeah,
I
we
guess
had the town
Maltese. I
hall
guess maybe. Yeah.
meeting, and they featured a massive flag from my nation. Like, and the presenter said, "Now we have another new flag aboard."
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, So yeah.
I love it. Right on, dude. All right, cool. Well, so you've got a lot of experience working across multiple cultures, borders, things like that. So we're going to get into a lot of that stuff today. We got some really awesome questions. First thing I want to address, I had somebody ask me if the images, the thumbnail photos that we were using, if they were staged. Those are 100% not staged. Those are straight up from our conversation.
No, they are
We
not
just
staged. I
made
wish they were
we made some
staged. And
funny
it's
faces.
yeah, sorry for jumping in. It's dude. I mean, when you released these photos, Alan, I was like, and what the heck? You really caught me red-handed, mate. And I was like, oh my
That's
god. And
great.
I spent like there were moments where I was like pointing my finger towards my face, laughing at myself, man. And I was literally speaking, I was in tears, man. I
I love
was
it.
in
Well,
tears
that
like crazy, man.
that was the
But
goal.
yeah,
That was the goal. All right, cool. So we've got some questions already in the chat from Lauren and from Hong. But before we get into that, actually, something. This is my question that I wanted to follow up with our the last minute of our interview on the episode. If you haven't listened to it yet, please go listen to it. But you mentioned something about geopolitical, the context within we're designing it within the geopolitical context and.
yeah.
I wonder if you could just, we don't have to get too deep into it, but I wonder if you could just sort of expand on that. What do you mean when you say we're designing for the geopolitical context of that region? Can you
Sure,
talk about that?
absolutely. So yeah, so maybe the geopolitical part might be a little bit of a wild term. So that's why maybe I should use the term regionalization. This
Right.
might
Yeah, you mentioned that.
be the contrast of globalization. I mean, to put it frankly, I think I'd better bring it up with examples.
Yeah.
Let's take, I've seen a few photos running on LinkedIn about the brand new iPhone. So there is the iPhone for the United States, and now there is the iPhone for Europe. The difference
Hmm.
is that, it seems to me, I'm not an iPhone user, by the way, that the European version doesn't have these AI capabilities.
Mm.
Why is that? It's because now I don't know what the heck is going on with iPhone and so on, but knowing how what's been going on in Europe with these antitrust cases. This has to do with the fact, to make sure that the solutions we design are compliant with certain regulations issued by a specific nation. For
Mm.
instance, let's take the release of Threads by Facebook or Claude by Anthropic.
Hmm.
These were in the US, they were going wild, people were using them and so on. And I remember I happened to be
Oh,
a late,
right.
I tried Anthropic quite late. So I heard a lot
Yeah.
of good things. So I jumped in, I said, okay, I wanna try it. And the first thing I got greeted with was with like, it's not available in your area yet. And I was like, oh my God, I still have to wait. Have to check a few
Right. Right.
boxes to
Right.
make sure that compliance is there.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
yeah, but in the absence of how should I put that? Let's reword it a bit differently. Now, what happened is prior to that, it is safe to consider that companies design their solutions in their own image first, which is the way we should start. But chances are they didn't account the fact that they might expand their
Right.
solutions in other regions and they couldn't check all boxes. So therefore, they had to recalibrate things to meet certain standards in other nations. And this is becoming quite a thing, especially nowadays. Now, at the same time, and I don't mean to jump right straight into politics, which is one of my favorite topics.
It's all
Yeah,
right.
I will never stop talking
Get
politics,
get
man.
get get some politics into LinkedIn. That's that's what we
Okay,
need.
absolutely. I mean, so
Do it.
basically, okay, we've been living in a period of globalization where there is an exchange of trades, exchange of goods, exchange of
Hmm.
talents, you name it. Nowadays, we are entering into a period of, where nations focus on their own, like pretty much my country first, my
Hmm.
nation first,
More
and that is,
nationalism, right?
yeah, this is regionalization. So let's imagine I want to do business with you. So previously, it's like I can maybe reach out to you, we can agree on something, maybe we can exchange goods, sign some papers, no problems. in time we might be in situations where maybe you might tell me like, hey dude, we can no longer do any business, we can no longer exchange this and that and so on. And I'm not gonna go into examples for well, political reasons, you know. So what happens here is I suspect that this current trend will push us into expanding our creativity towards uncharted territories. Like,
Okay.
let's imagine I am an inventor. I want to procure something from you. Maybe you have certain resources or raw material which I need in order to build something. And for whatever reason, I cannot acquire these from you. So I have two options. Number one, maybe to seek another supplier who is willing to do business with me. Number two, maybe to redesign my product to or service. Okay, let's stick to product first, actually. To redesign and recalibrate my solution to be to operate on different resources or different material or
Right.
different whatsoever. So as designers, we must design solutions that are scalable, not only in terms of scalability the way we know it in terms of technicalities and so on, but also with regards to culture and all the subsequent issues which might prevail thanks to what I termed again as regionalization. And I don't mean to spread any kind of conspiracy theories behind that, but I see that
Watch out. We need a disclaimer. Watch out.
we are gradually heading there. So to put it frankly, how should I put that? So let's imagine we have the world, we have a world order, which is pretty much the globe, well, the collective West.
Right. We've got
Nowadays,
EU, you like multipolar, right? What
yeah,
centers
so
of
we
power?
are
Right.
entering into a multipolar world. We're going to have
Right.
more regional powers competing and so on. That will also affect the way we do business, we exchange goods, and the way we design solutions.
Yeah.
And although this might not be the best example of all, but it still comes to my mind every time. I brought the Nike case, the Nike Air case in our podcast when
Right.
this has to do with symbolism when they released the Nike Air with some fancy squiggly whatsoever, which
Right.
is supposed
Like
to
a flame or
represent,
something. Yeah.
yeah, which is supposed
Yeah.
to represent air, but that squiggly meaning had a different meaning in the Muslim world,
Right.
which pretty much was perceived as blasphemy,
Sure.
hence
Yeah.
not acceptable.
Yeah.
So
So
that
for just
caused,
real quick for
go on.
anybody who's not aware, it basically made the script of Allah. And
Something like
in like lots of not just necessarily Arabic world, lots of cultures, the shoe is considered dirty and it's offensive. So like I don't know if you remember this, but like back when like the US invaded Iraq, they said we're going to welcome them with bullets and shoes, and they would throw shoes at like the American flag and stuff because that was like hugely it's supposed to be show a sign of disrespect. So when Nike put this this symbol of Allah on the bottom of a shoe, which is walking on a dirty ground all the time, it was highly offensive. And if you Google it, it's crazy. It does look a lot like the word Allah in Arabic. So anyway, just want to add some context for those who aren't necessarily aware of what we're talking about. So anyway, it's really interesting, fascinating story. If you want to read through that, a very what's a masterclass in how not to design shoes.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm seeing Hung's comments, yeah, about the shoes. Yeah, right.
yeah,
Sorry.
Jordan.
So right, I wasn't really prepared to talk about politics, but here we
Yeah.
go.
Well, we don't. Okay, so we don't have to
My
go
guilty
too deep down in
pleasures.
that unless you
So
really, really want to. Go anyway.
yeah, plus it's also it's also a live Q&A, and I don't want to have people quoting me for something and use some
Snippets.
information.
All right. Well, you want to move on then? We could move on if you want. If you want to,
Yeah,
unless it's something you
absolutely.
really want to dig into. All right. So we actually had some really interesting questions. I have some follow-up questions I was writing down because I want to kind of go circle back to this idea of designers thinking about cross-cultural. It's a lot of effort, a lot of work. So I have some kind of questions and stuff like that. So Lauren had a really interesting question. What's the wildest definition of UX that you've come across that kind of stretches your understanding? So The way one culture defines UX, the way another one defines UX is probably very different across cultures. Do you have an example of one that's like just sort of blew your mind and you're like, wait a minute, hold on, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. That's an interesting question because that is one of the questions I asked when I interview people. Like, how do you? I mean, how would you define design or
Mm,
anything within the realm of user experience? I cannot really say that I came with a wild um, or crazy definition, put it frankly. But what I can add here is um, actually, I remember two cases.
right on this.
So this was a few years ago, so this may not be applicable. So please take that into consideration. Lauren, right? Yeah, Lauren. Um, this happened to be back in the golden days of Angel List. Nowadays, it's called Well Found. So I
Mm-hmm.
had a profile. I was living in Germany and I got pinged by a startup. And we had an interview the next day, and I wasn't prepared for that. And it was a company, it was a German Indian company. So they work in plantation, like plants, and treating diseases that could undermine crops and so on. And so I had an interview with a sociologist and a designer who is from India, and I was not prepared at all. And this was a wake up call from me, and that's where I became even more obsessed with cultures. So what happened was, I don't remember what kind of questions I asked. I think I brought something up about colors and UI, and simply because we in the West tend to be more into minimalism.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered is, I remember the designer, he smiled at me and said, like, just to tell you something, um, if an app in our area, in our country, doesn't have these flashy emojis, these flashy colors, and so on, to us that means bad UX. Just so to let you know.
Wow.
And I was
Okay.
like, oh my god, I didn't know that. My bad.
Yeah.
And then that was years ago. Maybe things are different nowadays. Yeah, so that was back in 2017, I believe. And it was a wake up call for me because I realized that I need to research and learn design, not in the way we do how we should design and so on, but how to design for specific cultures and nations. Like, for instance, let's take Japan. Like Japan, um, there is this say, less is more. Now, this doesn't quite apply in countries like Japan because, as a nation, as a culture, they don't like dealing with uncertainty. So, in Japan, the more information you add, that
Mm,
translates to good user experience. Whereas maybe
interesting.
in
Okay.
our eyes, when
Right.
you have a lot of content, that means cognitive load, clutter, all these buzz terms derived from a psychological book, to put it frankly.
Right.
So that's why, as designers, it is strictly speaking important that when we take into consideration business requirements, stakeholder requirements, customer requirements, user requirements, the usual. Take into consideration cultural requirements. So ask your clients, ask your stakeholders whether they intend to expand and offer their service or product in a culture that is different from yours. Because otherwise, there is a chance that you
Right.
will you may never start. Like, you will be successful in your area, right? But you
Yeah.
may fail right away in uh, in
Right.
other nations. And yeah, and just to add one more thing, once I did a CRO test for a popular food chain. I'm not going to mention the name, and pretty much everybody knows the food chain company. And so they have operations in South Korea, and we managed to win them as a client in a previous company, and we're supposed to run A/B test for them. And I must say, it was one hell of a tough experience because I was supposed to see if we can improve their UI, and I couldn't really begin because one thing that I noticed and I should have known is like a part of their designs and ads, they also incorporated a lot of manga artwork.
Right.
And I was like, how the heck should I handle that? I'm a big fan of manga. I
Yeah.
love manga like crazy. But when I got presented with an
Yeah.
actual
It's hard.
case, pretty much I got frozen at first.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so here, this actually, so Hang had a question. I want to ask a follow up because this sort of relates to what we were talking about before. We were talking about like we're moving more towards this idea of regionalization, but there's still this idea of globalization. But even small startups and stuff, they sort of start off regionally, move to international. And so I'm curious, like as a UX designer, do you have any thoughts on how, well, this may be a two-part question. How do you go about really understanding the audience, right? Because it's a lot of work. But then also, how do you know if you even should, if that's even necessary, right? Because doing all that is a lot of effort to find out that, oh yeah, they're just like me, or just like my, my local region. It's not really that different. That two-part question. How do you know, well, actually, I guess maybe I'll reverse it. How do you know if you should be doing it? And then if you decide that you should be doing it, how do you go about preparing for that scenario?
Okay, that's quite a good question. So,
Yeah, so many, dude. I got so many good questions.
so let's start. So, for the first question, if I got it right, and this comes really up to us, to ask the intentions of the founder, the company, whatsoever, like whether they intend to offer their solutions elsewhere beyond their territory.
Right.
So this is about pursuing their, understanding their aspirations. So this comes down, so as a designer, I would ask like, okay, now, of course, I have to come up with better questions, but pretty much my aim would be like asking the stakeholders like whether they intend to avail their offerings in other locations for starters. And if
Right.
the answer is, of course, yes, then this comes down to contextual inquiries and research. So in that regard, involve people from different nations. Like, for
Right.
example, if my goal is to, that in time, maybe in X amount of years, I want to avail I don't know, my product or service, say in Japan, that I'm gonna start involving people from Japan in the discovery phase,
Right.
or be it discovery phase, be it contextual inquiries, be it just plain interviews, and same with and same if there is evaluative research, like when you test a solution and so on, to make sure that things make sense at their end. So these are
Yeah.
things you have to consider in advance. And secondly, if there is the intent, then mind as well, you start speaking with people from certain regions right from the start, because otherwise it will be more
Right.
expensive fixing the solution later.
Yeah. Yeah. Something else I was kind of thinking about, it depends on where you publish this app, but if, it's on the App Store, for instance, a mobile app, you can take a look at the reviews, obviously, and you can look at the analytics and see, where are people downloading this thing from, or, your Google Analytics, if you're on a website, where are people accessing this site from, to kind of get a sense for that. Obviously, that's not going to tell you something is wrong or not, but it might help you at least understand, like, oh, we've got way more people in this area than we thought. Especially like a web app, anybody can access it from nearly anywhere. That just because you intend it for a North American audience, for instance, or United States or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean somebody in Cambodia can't pull it up and use it, right? And so it's sort of one of those questions too, like, how valuable is it for us to go and explore, because it's a lot of effort to do that, especially if they're in another part of the world, right? I mean, you could do remote, but, contextual inquiry and, ethnography requires being there in person. Obviously that's expensive, a lot of time. So anyway, just sort of what's the value? Like, do we think that this is valuable for us to explore? And we're assuming the risk of doing it or not doing it, which is maybe perfectly fine, depending on, the company and the goals of the thing. You might not need to do anything just because you have the audience. There doesn't necessarily mean you have to optimize for them.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the company, the goals, the
Yeah.
magnitude of their goals, or even their solutions. So, I mean, these are individual cases. The thing is let's assume the worst case scenario. Now, the choice would be either you spend X amount of money right now and do things right, or otherwise you end up spending X amounts of money
Right.
later to take care
Right.
of things in conjunction with dealing with possible regulatory breaches,
Right.
which is you might have to pay a penalty
No, that's definitely
for.
something to consider. Yeah, right. Yeah, if you have a website. Actually, it's I don't know. Maybe you know the answer to this, but like, let's say I have a web app, and I
Sure.
launch it in the United States, right? And it's intended for a United States audience, but someone in Europe can access it, and they're under European privacy laws. If I don't optimize it for Europe, but someone from Europe uses it, even if I didn't intend for it to happen, and I know you're not an expert in like GDPR or anything, but I'm curious, like what happens there? Is that company liable for any kind of lawsuit or something, or is it they're not intending it for that region, so like they're not I don't know, how does that work? Do
Okay,
you have
so let's
experience with that?
rephrase it. Okay, so we have an app. So the app is managed in the US,
Mm-hmm.
which is only intended for the US audience. And I managed to grab the app, download it, use it, and things happened. Is that right?
Right? Yeah. I don't know. This is totally
Well,
off topic of like
yeah,
I'm just curious.
this is a rather difficult case. And again, this is a live Q&A, so I have to be careful what to say. But
Everything's on the record.
that reminds me of the Telegram case.
Okay.
I mean, where pretty much we have the founder
Yeah.
being accused of
Right.
XYZ because other people use the
Mm-hmm.
product differently.
Right. Right. Right.
This could be me. I invented something with pure intent, with the intention to help other people, but other people misused my application. So the question would be whether I should be liable or not. And the answer is, I mean, of course, I would say no, but you can never know what goes on in the mind of people behind regulations. So that's
Right.
why
Yeah.
having
And whether
having
or
a
not they're
good,
going to prosecute it or whatever.
having
Yeah.
a good lawyer
I
is
know
on.
you're not an expert, right? So, all
No,
right.
I mean I have my 2 cents on that, but then again, there are things which maybe I shouldn't really talk publicly.
Yeah. Well, we'll do another episode where we can edit everything in post and cut out all the offensive stuff that you say, and you won't be held accountable. All right. So, but I got some questions about actual job hunting across cultures. We got some people submit some questions early, but before we do that, I want to ask Hong's question here. He said, "Is there a culture that you like working with? You particularly like working with, and why is it not Chinese?" All right. Oh, Hong, I love it.
Okay, so for
Is there a
starter,
culture that you particularly like working with? And second part, why isn't it China?
okay, so Hang is jumping straight into conclusion that it's not Chinese. Okay, I don't know where he
He's
brought
got
it up.
jokes. He's got
Yeah,
jokes.
I
Yeah.
know him. I know Hang. Right. So, I mean, being in Europe, I particularly enjoy working with cultures from North America and and also from Latin America. Could be a matter of chemistry, but what I love the most is the positivity. It's like when you
Oh,
have an
okay.
idea, when you have an innovation, it's like, where should I put it? Let's say I have a great
Like
idea.
we're open to
People would
other
say
ideas. Yeah.
what the heck? That sounds great. Let's do it. You know. So there is that motivation. What I come from, it's more like, yes, what if, but maybe we need to do this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of hesitation, and at times hesitation kills the motivation and it
Mm-hmm.
brings further delays. Maybe it's because I'm a believer of, starting fast, well, to a certain extent, starting fast, but also
Mm-hmm.
failing fast rather than prolonging just for the sake of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why not China? He said. Dude, I mean, I work with Chinese people. I mean, they are awesome. I love their sense of humor, man. I mean, I remember I used to have people that used to put pranks on me, man. Uh, so
You got pranked. I love it.
Yeah,
It's a
I,
fun, it's
I
a fun culture. It's
yeah. So no, no, Chinese people are awesome actually. So but I also met a lot of
there's
geeks, particularly data scientists.
geeky, nerdy Chinese data scientists. I
Yes,
could see
yes,
that.
yes.
I could see that. That's cool. All right. So Hong, I hope you're not super upset with Joseph's answer. All right. So getting back to the topic at hand, we went off topic, and that's totally my fault. But it's my show. I do what I want. I want to talk about job hunting internationally and think a little bit about this. So we had several questions. I'm just sort of I'm gonna combine them into maybe one more
Sure.
generic question, but the questions revolved around understanding the culture of the place that you're applying to. And, in a place like Europe or EU, at least specifically, it's relatively easy. It's similar to the United States where I can live in one state and apply to a job in another state and move across the country. And it's not a big deal. I don't have to apply for visas and all that. So in Europe, you've got the opportunity, in EU at least, you've got the opportunity to potentially move from one country to another relatively easily, right? Obviously, it's not easy, but it's easier than moving across countries with visa restrictions. So, when you're applying for jobs, what's the best way to research and understand, either the culture of the country or the work culture before you even start applying for jobs in that area to kind of know what you're getting into? Is there a way to understand that to make sure you're not jumping into something you're going to regret later?
Interesting question. I mean, my key learnings have been to be pretty much through trial and error, put it frankly. So it's like I learned things
Mhm.
after I jumped into a new role right away. Um, so for starters, especially nowadays, because of change of regulations and so on, yeah, what I suggest is um, be familiar with regulatory changes for starters,
Okay.
because things keep changing. Two, since I learned things the hard way, I would also suggest maybe for people to travel fast and go maybe to events like meetups, maybe even design meetups and so on. Also, talk to people in advance and see what you can learn and so on. Now, in terms of preparations per se, there is nothing much I can say. So, pretty much, I mean, I use the same method pretty much with every single nation. The only thing that comes to my mind, because it's something that it happened to me super recently, is with regards to relocation.
Right.
So that's the thing that people must be prepared for. Now, of course, you might, okay, the relocation part is inevitable, but there are situations where hiring companies might assume that you will be begging for relocation
Oh,
assistance.
money. Yeah. Okay. Right.
So,
And they don't
for
even want to
example,
deal with it. They're
yeah,
not
so
even going
for
to offer you the job. Yeah.
now some companies offer that, and even though in most cases I'd say thank you, but no thanks, I can handle that on my own. Uh,
Really? Even if
yeah,
they offer it, you decline it? Is there a reason why? Do you just not want to
yeah,
take
absolutely,
the
because that can also be the reason behind the rejection.
Oh, interesting. Oh, so they
Yeah,
offer it, they ask if you want it, you say yes before they offer you the job. I see.
that
Okay.
can also be used as a rejection. So that's also something I experienced. So it depends on how genuine people can be. So yeah, so mentioning open to relocate on the resume, that is, I would say, do something more, like show that you really intend to move there. I mean, because open to relocation, that is very vanilla, to put it frankly.
Right, right.
So mention that you really intend to come around there. Maybe it's part of your plans already. So if that's the case, make it clear. These are not even my words. These are the words of two recruiters I spoke to.
Oh, really?
From,
Okay.
yeah,
This is not your assumption. This is actual
no,
info.
no.
Okay. Good to
I
know.
had a recruiter from a big company in Europe, and he told me, of course, I had a rejection, and pretty much I had his contact details, and I tend to pick a few rejections, with rejections as in without an initial interview, and reach out to see if I can fetch some feedback. And one recruiter in particular, who was, pretty much I mentioned, like, is it by any chance because I'm not in country X?
Right.
He didn't say it bluntly, but he said like, since you happen to be out, just mention that in the application your very intentions, so
Interesting.
that will be the very first thing people will see before they decide what to do next.
Yeah.
So that part is important to take into consideration. And secondly, this might come across as a little bit bizarre,
Oh,
but
okay.
that's something
Lay it
I
on
had.
me.
Um, once I had a rejection, like I applied for a with a Danish American company, and I got rejected right away. And they re-advertised the role, and I said, "What the heck? I'm gonna reapply again." And then I realized that I spotted the recruiter's email address. So I reached them out and pretty much I explained briefly the situation, and I asked whether it makes sense if I reapply again. And they answered me and
Oh,
said,
okay.
like, so what happened is I managed to overturn a rejection into an interview instead of reapplying again. What happened is yeah, I'm not going to jump into the detail right now. So fast forward, we had the interview. And it turned out that they rejected me because of my IP address, because the IP
Really? Yeah.
address
Okay.
was not similar to their country. And they explained what actually happened. So, number one, when you apply, say, through an ATS like Workday, for example, if there is the part where you must fill the address, ideally, you should, especially if you live in that country, fill it
Yeah.
down.
Interesting.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you don't fill it down, these are not even my words. This is what happened with that
Yeah.
company. They would come on your LinkedIn to make second impressions. And as a
Yeah.
last resort, they pick up your IP address and so on. Pretty much during the interview, I wanted to tell her, like, what if I happen to be, on Spain? It was summer, like on
Yeah.
Spain,
Well,
maybe I'm just enjoying my blue Caracao, and I decided to load my laptop and to start sending
just start
resumes.
applying for jobs on the beach while you're sipping a drink. So, I mean, what happens if you have a VPN or something and
That,
it looks as if you're in another country even though you're not,
yeah,
That's an interesting thing to
I
I
mean,
guess though when
VPN.
you've got 500 people applying for one job, you need some criteria to slim it down. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think that's just the
Yeah, I mean
reality.
VPNs. I mean VPNs. They work to an extent, and some
Mhm.
platforms may detect that you are using a VPN, and it might lead into a continuous reloading of the same
Mhm.
page.
Mm.
So it may not always work. But again, I'm not the best person to ask for VPNs.
Okay.
So there is
Fair enough.
also that.
Fair
Um,
enough. All right.
but yeah, so that's one of that's one of the ugly realities, to put it frankly. So there is that. So if you manage to win the interview, or like the chance to talk, then you can back yourself up, because eventually that's what happened to me. And after I backed myself up, like, excuse me, like I can move to your locality in a matter of 2 to 3 days, as long as I
Yeah,
prove
yeah.
that
Okay.
saved the
Right.
hassle.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter where I live. All right. So I want to shift gears a little bit. You mentioned this the
Sure.
other day. You sent me a message. It's fun. Actually, Chris Wynn posted something about how no one's ever asked for a certification or something. You sent it to me and you said, "What do you think about it?" I was like, "Yeah, same for me. I actually the last place I worked, they actually ditched the bachelor's degree requirement and it's now a skills, based thing and not necessarily certification." And you mentioned in a lot of places in Europe that this is the opposite. You actually had people very specifically require certain certifications. So when thinking about this international job hunt, someone from one area who might not be, used to that requirement applying another place, um, do hiring managers in these different areas they view that educational qualification, certificates, degrees, whatever, different from others? And how do you navigate that? Does that just mean you're out if don't have a bachelor's degree in one specific thing? You're out, or how do you handle that I don't know, conundrum, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Sure. So for starters, no, it doesn't mean that those without qualifications are out. So long they can, so long they can prove it via experience, and best of all, a portfolio, a good portfolio with some, juicy case studies. Now, coming down to qualifications per se, for starters, where should I start? So, if the candidate requires a visa, then qualifications are usually needed because they
Oh,
also have to
interesting.
go through the,
Okay.
through the immigration and so on. And, the immigration authorities, they only understand degrees, first
Right,
and foremost, not
right.
even
Yeah.
certificates, degrees. So if you have a degree, that is going to help. And I speak also for myself because I was also looking for opportunities, cross border, put it frankly, in other continents. And,
Hmm.
degrees are, a way to save myself.
Right.
So that's one. Now, keeping everything within within the European realm, most of the job specs, they ask for qualifications, but it's like, okay, a bachelor or master degrees in yada yada yada, or a portfolio demonstrating X amount of whatever case studies, experience, or case studies in certain areas, and so on. So that is something you see. That is especially in central to an extent Southern European, South
Mm.
Europe. Now, when we head to the north and also northwest in particular, I've seen a combination of both. Now, I used to have. Okay, for starters, if we take the Nordic countries like Norway, Finland, and so on, now degrees are valued there. And for instance, in countries like Norway, there is also a PhD culture. And
Wow.
like
Okay.
few of my friends, they were even pushing me to pursue a PhD. And I've been
So, like, you're basically what you're saying. Like, if you don't have a PhD, you're probably going to be have a very hard time finding work.
no, not a PhD. I mean, at least, but yeah, I mean, if you don't have a degree, that can be that
Oh,
can
okay.
be a bit
Okay.
of a situation. Like for instance, quoting a former classmate from Norway, we met in London, and he told me after he got the degree, his master's, his employability skyrocketed.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so most of the designers I met in Norway, they have a master's, and a few even a PhD.
Wow. Okay.
Same in Finland, where pretty much service design is like
Right. Right.
gospel over there.
Yep.
Many people I met, pretty much, yeah. I mean, with degrees and so on, and even the job specs, they tend to ask for, well, some of them, just not to say all, because I don't remember quite everything. They pretty much ask for qualifications, a great portfolio, besides experience and so on. So they want to see
Yeah.
everything. Now, coming down to my very personal experience, yes, I had cases where I got even asked to supply my qualifications. These form part of background checks, uh, but also I had situations like when I dealt with two startup entities where the founders required um, our paperwork in order to secure to secure investors and investments.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So,
So
like, I could see that as being, like, we're not employing foreign people or whatever because the grants depend on this or that or something. I could see that. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, but in the startup world is different. It's just to make so the founders,
Oh,
how to
from
say,
VCs. Okay. Okay.
yeah, 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 just to present an amazing profile, like, hey, we are a great team, we have so many qualified people with us and
Oh,
so on.
right. The
Now we can
PR
apply
part
for
of
the
it. Right.
funding.
Right.
So it was about that.
Okay.
But yeah, but I remember I had a case once. I was working with a scale-up company, and I was still studying back then. And I got the message that I need to supply my qualifications. And I told to my CTO, I said, "Dude, I'm still studying. God damn it! I mean, I can give you an evidence that I'm studying, but
Yeah.
if you need my degree, I mean, you have to wait till next year. All right, all right."
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
was like, "Dude, it's all okay. It's just And then he
Oh,
started
interesting.
explaining
Yeah.
like it's for investors and so on. And that was a new discovery for me.
Yeah. I've never. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I've worked with startups too in the past, but I've never had that. But I guess a lot of times it's been like with like as a consultant, so they're
Yeah,
just
but
putting it
dude,
everything
in
up.
Europe,
Yeah.
startups were differently.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Really.
yeah, I don't want to say that I have a lot of experience with startups, even though to an extent once I was even a co-founder for a health tech company, health tech startup. But you have to prove a lot in advance, like financial forecast for the next 5 years.
Wow. Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't even know what's gonna happen next year, let alone 5 years. I don't even know
Yeah.
whether
Especially
my
for a startup.
idea is gonna catapult or not. But so
Yeah.
I have to be like a Harry Potter, making all these guesses.
Yeah.
So
I
in
remember
time,
you sent me that like Pulp Fiction thing where John Travolta and them, they're in the car but they're talking about
yeah,
like startups in
that one,
America
that
versus
is true, man.
Yeah, that's really
That
funny.
is true
Yeah, I've
story.
never worked with a startup in Europe, so I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm glad that to see that at least because it seems like in the States at least people just throw money at stuff and companies aren't profitable for like decades and somehow they're evaluated at like billions of dollars, but they've never made a profit, which is just I don't know, it blows my mind. But
Yeah, I mean, in the US, there is an appetite for risk. And eventually, what
that's
happens
true.
is,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if I don't say that, people will find out even on YouTube. Some of
Hmm.
these European startups, eventually, they end up seeking backup from US investors. And what happens is, at
Interesting.
times, these European based startups either get gobbled up by a bigger entity from the States or they just
Hmm.
decide to pack their bags and continue their operations from the States
Just
because
move to Silicon Valley or something.
they get the right support over there.
Mm, interesting. All
Yeah.
right. Awesome, dude. Well, we got about 10 minutes left.
Oh my God.
I've got, I know we've been talking for a while. It doesn't seem like it. I've got a few this or that questions. So you've been on the episode. We asked you some questions about your favorite books and podcasts and things like that. This time I'm going to ask you 20 this or that questions. The first thing that comes to your mind, this is just a way for everybody listening out there to get to know Joseph Mercieca a little bit better. So are you ready? I'm gonna do 20 questions, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, you ready? All right. First up, dog or cat?
Both.
Both. All right, that
I
works.
mean,
I'll allow it.
I used to have I used to have four cats.
Yeah.
My grandma used to have over 15 cats, but she had a garden, so I could say that I'm more of the cat person. But I love all animals.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, one of my recent obsessions is I wish to have a prairie dog or
A
a
prairie
savannah.
dog.
Yeah, like these.
Like in your backyard, like just digging holes, sticking its head out,
Yeah, for
looking
example,
around. Like
yeah,
I love that,
they're
dude.
cute.
I don't know why, but I could see you just like sitting in your chair working, petting a prairie dog while you're working, like I don't know. All right. Next up, Netflix or YouTube?
YouTube.
All right. Phone call or text? You seem like a phone call kind of guy. Like you like to talk on the phone.
I generally am, but at times I prefer text when I'm not really in the mood to, to speak. But I mean, I tend to value my me time, my lonely time a lot. So I also am a person who respects distances, and I tend to be, there are moments where I prefer to be
Oh, it's async.
absolutely
Okay.
alone.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I love it. All right. Ice cream, cone or a cup?
Cone or cup? Well, I mean, I could say cone in case if there's no garbage place, so I could just gobble the entire cone. Yeah, okay, well, let's go for cone.
I like cone too. I like you don't have to throw anything away after.
Yeah.
You got the thing. You eat it. You just got to watch out for melting ice cream if it's.
Yeah, so you have to lick your fingers, unfortunately. So there is that. That's why I don't want to think
That's
about
true.
it.
I guess you need napkins. You got to throw something away, unless they're
Yeah.
edible napkins, which would be weird. All right. Big teams or small teams?
Hmm. I like both. Oh, well, I mean,
It depends.
I don't really have a preference to that.
All
I
right.
mean, with with small teams, it's easier to to get hold of everybody and to include
Mm.
everybody. But with big teams, you cannot really address everybody unless you're on the
All
stage.
right.
But
Yeah.
once you're on the stage, that's a completely different story. So yeah, it's a little bit of yeah. I'm
All right.
seeing the comments right now. I see somebody named Jorge leaving some comments,
Yep.
and also more comments from Hang Shu. Yeah,
He's
these
very
are
excited. He's very excited. So let's see. All right. Well, let's
cool.
interject. We'll get these in real quick. All right. Ask about the Maltese swimmer who swam for 52 hours straight. Do you know him, and are you proud of him?
Yeah, I think there was a case about a young person who swam recently around. I mean, I discovered that yesterday or the day before, so I still haven't like the case. But there are a lot of good swimmers in Malta. I mean, that's what we have,
You're
water,
an
man.
island. I guess you got to be right. You
Yeah,
got
I
to.
mean, water is like our second nature, and
Yep.
that's the thing I miss the most, water. And in fact,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have a habit, like at times just leaving the shower open for 1 hour, like just to feel the water pouring on me all the time.
I love
Yeah.
it. You fill up the bathtub and just like kind of swim in the bathtub.
No, no, just I just need to feel the water.
Oh,
So
I love it, dude. All right.
I tend to be a little bit of a child of cold and the child of water at the same time.
I love it. Well, that's an interesting mix because I don't know. To me, that doesn't necessarily work. All right. Jorge asked, ask about Switzerland and is Switzerland the best country in the world? Is that
Oh
true?
my God, he really loves Switzerland, man, this dude. Yeah, I mean there are some pros and cons, just like everywhere. I told you, Hoha,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I mean they are quite ahead. Well, I cannot say if they are quite ahead or not in this sense. I cannot compare with other nations, but they are
Mhm.
doing amazing stuff in robotics over there, right?
All right. All I
Yeah,
really know
robotics.
about Switzerland is the chocolate. They got Swiss chocolate. They got Swiss banks. They
Yeah,
got
and the Swiss
Swiss,
knife.
their army knife. Their army knife is great. I don't know.
Yeah, and also robotics, eh? Also
And
robotics. I
robotic.
mean,
All right.
I
I like
suggest.
a
Yeah,
robotic Swiss Army knife. That would be really cool to see. All right. This is a really important question.
yeah, love,
Toilet
love.
paper over or under? What do you do? Over, under toilet paper?
Excuse, what kind of question is that?
It's
I
this
don't.
or that. First thing comes to your mind.
What do you mean under? I don't understand the logic. What do you mean?
Oh, like
Oh,
when it rolls, right? It either goes over, right? Or you roll it backwards and it goes under. So when it's facing you, the toilet paper is either behind the roll or in front of the roll.
Jeremy, I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed on how meticulous you are about all this kind of stuff and so on. I mean, what do you do in your spare time, man?
This I think about that. By the way, if you answer under,
I don't
you're
have an
out.
answer to that. I mean, it doesn't really come to my mind for, dude. I have no answer to that.
All right, all right. Well, listen. Next time you sit down on the toilet, take a look. You'll know what I'm talking about. All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, in this case, I will be thinking of you, man.
Next time you sit in the toilet, you'll be thinking of me.
Oh my God,
That's exactly what I want. That's the outcome I was hoping for today. All right. Pen or pencil?
pen.
Pen. All right. Would you rather fight a kangaroo or race a cheetah?
Hmm. Again, I love animals. Okay, let's go with the kangaroo. Probably will end up in hospitals.
Yeah, they get man. The kangaroos are
Yeah, they
oh,
are.
great. Yeah.
There, yeah, there are certain regulations and also not to approach kangaroos. So once they go crazy, they go crazy. They're very strong.
Do you know what's crazy? The Cincinnati Zoo has this area where you can walk around and the kangaroos are just hopping around you. They're not separated by a fence or a wall or
You
anything.
mean big ones, big kangaroos?
These are I mean they're as tall as me, if not bigger. I mean, I don't know if that's big or not compared to kangaroos.
Yeah,
But
they
it's like
can.
because I've heard they get really aggressive and I'm like, "Well, do you let people walk around? Maybe they're
To
like
the
really
best
bad
of
on
my
the ground."
knowledge, that's not allowed in Australia. Eh? I mean, there are restrictions, so one must be careful. I mean, because they are very strong. They look very cuddly and so on, but they are super strong.
Yeah. They definitely scare the crap out of me. All right, so I had 20 questions. We're just going to skip ahead because we're almost out of time. Would you rather have your designs critiqued by Gordon Ramsay or by Simon Cowell?
I don't even know who the other guy is, but I think I would
Oh,
just
the
go
guy,
with Gordon.
he's British. I just assumed you knew him. He's
I would just
Simon Cowell's like the guy from America's Got Talent or one of those talent singing shows. I don't know. I don't watch the
Gordon Ramsay. I think
He's
we,
they're both mean is the joke.
yeah, I think we might see eye to eye. I mean, me and him. So I mean, if he gets mean to me, I can
Uh,
get mean to him.
all right. So your next project, you can only use either Comic Sans or Papyrus. Which one do you pick?
Comic Sans on Papyrus. Okay. Well, let's pick Papyrus for a
Papyrus.
change.
Why Papyrus? Is there a reason?
Well, because Comic Sans, a lot of people blaspheme against the Comic Sans. When people mention
Oh
Comic Sans,
man.
they make a lot of memes. Papyrus seems to be less popular, so I'm gonna go with that.
Did you watch that Saturday Night Live skit
No,
when Avatar 2 came out?
no. What
Or
was
was it
that?
Avatar? It wasn't Ryan Reynolds. Was it Ryan Reynolds? No, it was one of those actors. I don't know. He's funny. Anyway, not Ryan Reynolds.
Hmm.
What's his name? The guy from The Notebook. God, I can see his face, but I can't think of his name. Anyway, he did just Google Saturday Night Live SNL Papyrus. It's really funny.
That's
All
another.
right, last question. This one's very important. You are only able to conduct user research through either interpretive dance or haiku poems. Which do you pick?
Haiku poems.
Haiku.
Interpretive.
Yeah, interpretive
Interpretive
dance.
dance.
So you're dancing. You can't say anything. You're just dancing, and you're conducting user research through interpretive dance.
Or high coupons. I think I would go with the dancing part because I know a little bit of sign language, so I can also incorporate a bit
Oh, no,
of
that's
English
cheating.
into
That's
that.
cheating. You're cheating.
So
All right, Joseph. This has been a lot of fun. Before we get out of here, I got a little thing I got to read to get everybody out of here. Before we do that, let everybody know where they can find you. Obviously, LinkedIn, but let everybody know where they can find you. All that stuff.
absolutely. So yeah. So at the moment, people can just find me on LinkedIn. I wish I had more time. Yeah, because again, our pretty much conversation went a little bit sidetracked. So if you guys have any particular
It happens. It
questions,
happens.
and also, since there are things that I prefer not to really answer publicly, just please feel free to connect, reach out, and I will do my best to answer accordingly. Now,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
said, I've been also considering whether I should create a Maven or a Udemy kind of thing where I would tackle more about cross-cultural design. So that is something I'm going to be working on, but it might take me
Ooh,
some
okay.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I might try the thing called Maven because a lot of people
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
jumping
Yeah.
on Maven nowadays. Who
You gotta
knows?
get your course, man.
Yeah.
I gotta do a course at some
But
point
other
too. I
than
just
that,
gotta figure out what I want to say.
yeah, we can. You can become my favorite student. Join
Oh, oh! I thought you were going to ask me if I could be your hype guy or something like during the
or
course
hype
in
guy
the back, like
or a
hype guy.
cheerleader. Yeah, you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like just waving the towel in the background during your course. I would do that. Or student. I could be your student too.
either way.
I probably never leave the United States though, but unfortunately, as much as I would love to. So Joseph doesn't want to get canceled, so there's stuff he doesn't want to say publicly. But if you want to DM him, I'm sure he will give you a little
Guys, my
indulgent rate.
LinkedIn got frozen 3 times in July for doing nothing, let alone if I did something. So I'm being very wary, man.
He doesn't want to get canceled. All right, Joseph, thanks so much for coming on, man. This is fantastic. I know
You
we
too.
kind of went sideways a little bit, but like I said, this is my show. I do what I want. And thanks for everybody hanging out live. I appreciate it. Let us know what you think on LinkedIn. Shoot me an email, hello@beyonduxdesign.com. I'd love to hear from you. Please let us know. I'm curious if you've had experiences, if they're similar or different from Joseph's. That would be something I'd love to check out. Start a conversation. We'd love to not get canceled together. So we'll chat, but we'll send you our private our thoughts in private DM. Don't forget to check out the Beyond UX Design shop. Head over to beyonduxdesign.com/shop to get where's that link? There it is. To get your beautiful art prints, digital downloads from yourself. I love it. You're my hype man right now. All right, you ready for the coupon? Use the code LIVE to get 25% off your entire order. Head on over to beyonduxdesign.com/shop to get your print on. Help keep the show independent and ad-free. Oh, shoot. Wait, where's my Wix thing? Oh, well, sorry, Wix. I'm not going to read it right now. I don't know where the script went. Backlog. I forgot that one too. Sorry. All right. Support the show. Thanks. It's just like a downhill, dude. You can join Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Roddy, Megan, Andrew, John, Mark, Kevin, Jason, Michelle, and Marty, and many others, and help keep the show independent and ad-free. You'll get exclusive access to the entire video library of episodes, including episodes before they're released. Get instant access right now for as little as $5 a month. Here's the Wix thing. All right, you've been sitting on building a new website. Wix Studio can help get you there faster. Wix Studio's powerful platform that lets you create and manage websites easily. And with Wix Studio, you can quickly adapt designs for every device, reuse assets, and my favorite, export from Figma and much more. Oh God, I don't.
Ooh, yeah.
Anybody? Look, we still got 2 people on YouTube watching, so I can see that. All right, if you're ready to escape the 9 to 5 and build your own business, Backlog is the community for you. Join a dedicated network sharing tactics, strategies, and systems for success. Start your journey to independence with Backlog. Don't miss out. Visit beyonduxdesign.com/backlog today. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out all the past episodes and the live events at beyonduxdesign.com. I hope you keep coming back for more great UX tips from Beyond UX Design. And until next time, Joseph, don't forget, you're more than a designer because there's more to UX and design. I'll see you around. We'll see you around. Take care, y'all. How do I end this thing? All right.